Meeting to order. Am I gonna have to go back there and get Chairman Mullis's gavel? I think they're gonna get in line. Thank you. I'll let you know if I need it. We got three things on our agenda today. And I promised a full hearing and vote on Senate Bill 529. We're gonna have a hearing only on Senate Bill 495. And Chairman Huffstetler does not want to vote today. I think the parties are still talking on 420, but there are several of the craft brewers that have been here on a couple of different occasions wanting to be heard. And I've got one or two of them by Zoom. We're going to limit them just to 2 or 3 minutes. Chairman Huffstetler, you had 2 or 3 that had traveled again. This is the second or third time. So in courtesy to them, I'm just going to hear their testimony so this committee can know where they stand on that Senate Bill 420. So we're going to start with that. Who we got on the phone there, Cindy, that the Zoom, so I can make sure they're hooked up. All right, James Massey, are you with us?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right, thank you for your patience. Or I think you might have made a road trip up here the other day, and we apologize for you not getting reached. It is exceedingly difficult to predict how long bills are going to take, how many witnesses there'll be per bill, et cetera. So I'm going to give you a chance to talk to us. You're with Two Tides Brewing Company.
Yes, sir.
I'll introduce yourself and give us your thoughts on Senate Bill 420.
Sure. Thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman, Senators. I apologize I wasn't able to make it back up today. So I'll just start with, I'll keep this brief as I can here. 2017, I was a CPA practicing in the wonderful world of public accounting. I was actually working for Senator Hickman's firm and heard about Senate Bill 85 coming down the line, allowing breweries to sell by the pint over the counter, a limited amount to go. And I thought, well, you know, this no longer seems like a multi-million-dollar operation to do the 4,000 to 5,000 barrels, which I calculated at the time to be what you need to do to be profitable at the 100% wholesale channel, and thought it could be done for much less than that for a taproom model servicing your community. So I thought that the home brewing I've been doing for 10 years every weekend would be a little more fun than public accounting. So we did it. 4 years later, we've been able to survive, but not thrive. Pandemic aside, I would like to mention something about the pandemic. You know, like many breweries, we had to shift to off-site consumption. Taprooms were dead. 288 ounces did us no favors. And we went to our distributor at the time, and they said, to try and purchase some cans from us, they said, sorry, we're going to work with our existing portfolio during the pandemic. So the pandemic was very rough on us, not having been able to sell any cans or any draft. So Senate Bill 420, that is the biggest barrier for us to growth. We leave sales on the table every single day. Georgia has a great tourist sector of the economy. Savannah is no exception. We have people coming through every day from Florida. People plan trips to Savannah just to be able to come to our brewery and want to take home multiple cases of beer that we can't sell them. Another factor is we, like most modern breweries, package in 16-ounce 4-packs. It's not divisible into 288 ounces. So again, we're leaving sales on the table every day, and we're small. We don't distribute much cans at all. We did about 700 barrels out of the taproom last year, and a couple extra hundred that we were not able to sell through the taproom that we sent to distributors. And when people come to the taproom and want to take home beer and we have to turn them away, we're not turning them away to a retailer because it does not exist on retailer shelves. It is not profitable for us to distribute. As a very small manufacturer, our cost per widget is extremely high as compared to somebody producing 4 times or 1 million times as much. So again, a perspective on our size, we're 700 to 1,000 barrels, which is a very busy tap room. Most busy tap rooms are comparable. Breweries that do 5,000 to 100,000 barrels per year are doing about the same, maybe be able to do a little bit more with Senate Bill 420, but they're always still going to have these 4,000, 99,000 barrels, whatever have you, to distribute beyond their reach through the use of wholesalers and retailers, which is all a drop in the bucket compared to the 10 million barrels per year that Miller Coors did in Albany in 2019. This is just testifying to the importance of the 3-tier system and how they will always be around along with retailers to help breweries sell these millions of barrels outside of their tap rooms. Last session, Senator Brass, I think, asked who was able to benefit from the increase last year from 3,000 to 6,000 barrels per year. The Guild Executive Director, Joseph Cortez, responded that maybe one brewery was able to do that. The 288 ounce cap restricts us from getting anywhere near the 3,000 barrels per year. Again, we're only even set up to do 1,200 barrels per year. Most of your average breweries in Georgia don't produce 6,000 barrels per year, regardless, and obviously need to sell a majority of that outside of their immediate area. I'd like to respond to the wholesaler rep that made some comments a few weeks ago. In listening to him, his points were, one, this is just the way it's been since the prohibition. Two was a safety issue and not being able to allow brewers to sell more beer. I fail to see how it's a safety issue compared to me being able to walk across the street to the liquor store and asking for a pallet of vodka, throw it in the back of my truck, see you later. And the third point was just that we're going to keep coming back for more. We waited 4 or 5 years to be able to come back for more after the gracious SB 85 in 2017. But as long as we're being treated unfairly compared to other states and other industries in general, odds are every once in a while you might hear from us. So Senate Bill 420 is going to hopefully allow us to be successful, grow, be competitive to other states, and be first in line to profit off of our hard work. The charitable component to this bill cuts out red tape, cuts out the middleman, and allows a charity to come directly to us and receive beer donated, and just makes it more accessible for them to be able to throw profitable events and raise money for charities. I think that's about all I have to say, but I would love to answer any questions if there's any clarification I can provide. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you, James. Senator again has a question. Senator, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was curious, who's your distributor?
Well, if you would like to know who turned us down during the pandemic, that was United. We were distributing with them, just kegs at the time because cans were not profitable for us. And I asked them one day, hey, we're in a tough bind here. Our tap room is shut down. We need to sell a lot more beer to go than 280 ounces per person per day. And they said, sorry, we're going to work with our existing portfolio. Best of luck. Our current distributor is Modern Hops. They've been much more helpful.
Your contact at United? Who's your contact at United?
That email was from Michael Cuden, I believe.
Thank you.
All right, Senator Brass, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Quick question for you. So I'm just trying to get an understanding of all this and what it means. So you said currently you're somewhere between 700 and 1,000 barrels a year. That's correct.
Yes,
is that
sir.
right?
We produced just a hair over 1,000 barrels last year.
All right. What would be if we lifted this cap, the daily cap, what would you anticipate what's your projections for yearly output?
We could do
relationship here.
Yes, sir. So we're set up to do approximately 1,400 to 1,500 barrels per year at 100% production. We did just a hair over 1,000 last year because we didn't have a home for all that beer. And again, it's not really profitable for us to distribute. And we can't produce it for low enough that the retailers or the wholesaler is willing to buy. We did about 700 to 800 out of the tap room last year. So we could go from 700 out of the tap room and 200 distribution roughly to around 1,400, 1,500 barrels per year in our tap room, which would make lives a lot easier around here, would allow us to hire more employees, allow me to put my son in private school, so on and so forth.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for being with us today, Mr. Massey.
Yes, sir. Thank
Chris
you.
Jones, also via Zoom. Can't read it. I think it's the Georgia Beer Company. Is that right? You with us, Chris?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am. Hope you can hear me all right. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Chris Jones. I'm co-owner of the Georgia Beer Company. We're located in Valdosta, Georgia. We are, as a line of latitude goes, we're the southernmost brewery in the state, right on the Florida line. And James talked about distribution. So we do have a distributor. We use Savannah Distributing for the entire state of Georgia. And most breweries don't do that. A lot of breweries kind of compartmentalize. They use different distributors in different regions of the state that they think they can work best with. But we took an unconventional approach and chose one single distributor for the entire state. and they are a fantastic partner of ours. Our beer is in hundreds and hundreds of retailers all across the state of Georgia, and it wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Savannah Distributing helping move that product. So they are a huge partner for us, and we are in no way interested in compromising the three-tier system, because without it, we would not be as successful as we have been. I've spent 20 years in the Coast Guard, and so I tend to use a lot of nautical references, and one of the references I like to use is the rising tide lifts all ships. This bill helps me sell more beer directly to my consumers, and the higher my sales are, the more money I have to spend on advertising and marketing and point of sale systems, and that helps Savannah Distributing sell more beer. And so I don't think that this bill compromises the three-tier system at all. It certainly won't harm my relationship with my distributor, who's in every county in the state of Georgia. But it does do two things. Number one, it lets me sell more beer directly to my consumers. And number two, it lets me give right back to my community and donate directly to local charities and nonprofits in my part of the state that we want to support. I did want to mention one story that kind of highlights how the lack of this bill affected me directly. One of the sponsors of this bill, Senator Russ Goodman, we actually use his blueberries in one of our beers. Our blueberry field party comes from the blueberries come from Clinch County, Georgia, very small rural county in Georgia. And he wanted some beer, some of that particular beer that had the Clinch County blueberries in it, to be donated to the Clinch County Chamber of Commerce for one of their events they were having. Well, underneath the current system, I couldn't donate that beer directly to the Clinch County Chamber of Commerce, and Senator Goodman wanted 5 cases of that beer, and he couldn't come buy 5 cases of that beer. I had to tell him I could only sell him 1 case of that beer, which wasn't enough for the event that the chamber was putting on. So that's a real life scenario of how this bill could have fixed that problem. I could have either donated the product directly to the Chamber of Commerce in Clinch County, or Senator Goodman could have came by the brewery and I could have sold him those 5 cases. I'll keep it really brief. I mentioned my Coast Guard metaphors I like to use, and one of the things that we were taught coming up, and I try to teach my guys now, is to trust the process and have faith in the system. And I hope that this is the process. This is what you all do, and you're very good at it. We trust the legislative system, and I'm hoping that our voices will be heard, and that process that will take place, and the faith in the system will play out, hopefully in our favor, and not just my favor in Georgia Beer Company in Valdosta, but every brewery in the state of Georgia will benefit from the passing of this bill. So, with that being said, I have no further statements, but would be happy to answer any questions.
Well, if you want to make a contribution, let's say you decided to give that 5 or 10 cases to a charity event, how would you go about that?
The way I see it, this is designed for my backyard. It's for charities that I support already, either with monetary donations or with time. And in my mind, the way that would work the smoothest is either they can come by the brewery and pick up what they need, or if they need me to, I could go drop it off at wherever their event is that they're having.
No, you can't do that now.
Correct.
So now, if you make the contribution this weekend, I know Russ Goodman drinks a lot of beer. If he needs 5 cases, how are you going to get it there for his event?
Well, right now, if he needs it, he's going to have to go buy it from a local package store or grocery store.
You're not allowed to donate at all?
I cannot donate at all. That's correct.
So some of the distributors testified at a previous hearing, said they do it every day, that they'll make the delivery for you.
The way that it works for us is they do, I mean, at that point, they own the beer. The distributor owns the product at that stage of the process, and they're making a donation on their behalf. In the past, what I've done is I've written a check to the nonprofit or the charity to compensate them for the money that they spent on the beer. So essentially, I'm having to spend my own money to donate my own product to a charity I believe in.
All right. Senator Brass, do you have a question?
Chris, thank you for joining us today. And I know you drove up a couple times, and sorry that happened, but I am glad you're able to zoom in today. I kind of want to ask, or not kind of, I want to ask you really the same question, because I'm trying to get an understanding of what this is going to do for yearly barrels and the relationship on the daily cap and all that. So how many barrels are you doing yearly currently? You didn't even range it.
Last year we were just over, so in 2021 we were just over 2,000 barrels, and we're projected to hit 3,000 this year.
Okay.
This this bill would tie in some growth there.
How much growth do you anticipate? Would you anticipate?
I would say it would easily I mean, I could confidently say right off the cuff, at least another 500 barrels, especially being on the Florida line with so many people coming to the brewery. And that's when I have my audience's attention, is when they're in the tap room and they've taken a tour, they've met the folks that actually brew the beer. And that's my chance to really make some sales. And with the limits, that one case, I'm just kind of bound on what kind of sales I can make.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Other
Thank you.
members of the question? All right, thank you so much for being with us. Sorry you made that road trip the other day without being heard. It was nice meeting you.
It's very much a pleasure to meet you as well.
Jason Santa Maria.
Founder, President, Second Self Beer Company. We're in West Midtown, Atlanta. I want to keep this short. My colleagues have mentioned most of the reasons I had anyway. The two big things today, there are just some beers that our distributor won't pick up, and we need to have the ability to sell them in our brewery. We do anticipate this would be several hundred barrels for us, around 200 to 300 barrels of extra sales for us in our tap room alone, just for that. We're in what we call the brewery district in West Midtown. There's about 9 breweries by us. So beer tourism is a big deal for us. A lot of groups do come by from out of state and they want to purchase things to take home and share with their friends and family. So being able to have that cap lifted would really benefit all of us in that area and every other brewery in Georgia. We do a lot of work with nonprofits, and being able to donate directly would be beneficial just because it, like my colleagues have said, it just will make it a lot easier. So I support Georgia Bill 420, and I just want to keep my time short. And if you have any questions, I'm here.
I got kind of a fundamental question. How many cases of beer in a barrel?
There's 13.78 12-ounce cases in 12-ounce cans. It is 10.33 cases of 16-ounce cans.
Now, what's the difference in a barrel and a keg? What size wise? Help me visualize.
Yeah, so like if you think of the frat parties, those are half barrel kegs, so 2 of those per barrel, and then the skinny ones, or we call 6 barrels or sixels, those are 6 per barrel.
Okay, great. Other members got questions? Well, same questions from Senator Brass. You probably know what he's going to ask.
What was your total yearly barrels?
Last year we did 2,800 barrels.
2,800. And you think lifting the daily cap would increase 200 to 300 barrels?
Yeah, for us, correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other
Other
questions? All right, yeah, it's not 5 o'clock yet, but soon.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank
you,
you for being
everyone.
with us today. Anybody else want to be heard from the craft industry or from anybody opposing that bill while we're here? Not going to take action today. You guys were signed up the other day. Mike, can you keep it to about 2 minutes? All right. Well, they're both Mike. Yep. Whichever one's quickest, jump up there.
You get 2 mics today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. Y'all heard me on this a number of times, but Georgia Baptists have opposed any lessening of any restrictions on the sale of alcohol. We're not categorically against the craft brewers. We understand what they're trying to do, but our concern is we think we should maintain the 3-tier system. We don't want to go back to a pre-prohibition era when it was a wild, wild west of alcohol. And we went through prohibition, then we went through a post-prohibition where you have the 3-tier system and the other things that were entered in just for public health and safety issues. And, I pastored here in the state for 35 and a half years, been down here 15. I came down here my first time in 2007. And it's kind of like Jed Clampett. You ever seen him sitting on the front of the mansion whittling on a stick? Well, I keep seeing this stick getting whittled down. It's just continuing. We're not holding that. And I've said even back, I think in 2007, when I sat in this room, that it looks like one day we'll not be satisfied till it's sold 24/7 and including lemonade stands. In 2014, the Washington Post, I think, had an article out entitled "Alcohol is Still the Deadliest Drug in the United States." It's not even close. And I mean, everybody sitting here today, I don't know how many of you drink beer, but I don't think you could have one sitting here today. And there's a reason why. It's just not a Coca-Cola. Actually, I saw somebody drinking a Coca-Cola a while ago. There he goes. There it is. But there is a reason for that, and we do think there should be maintained reasonable standards. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for being with us. Any questions? All right, Mike?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. Michael Mumper with Georgia Alcohol Policy Alliance. Alcohol, I'm sure that sales would go up with this bill. That's really our concern from a public health and public safety standpoint. Alcohol killed more than 95,000 people in the United States last year, and it kills more than 2,600 Georgians every year. And if you know those numbers, you know that that's pretty much what the opioid overdose epidemic is killing. So it's really just as deadly. There are economic concerns. It's in your packet, $6.9 billion. So yes, sales will go up, and so will violence and crime. The three-tier system is one of the most durable, reliable regulatory systems ever this country created. It's 90 years it's been around now. And going direct to consumer bypasses and chips away at this regulatory system, at this very durable public health, public safety creating system. We give up efficient excise tax collection, product tracking for public safety, promoting customer variety and choice and orderly market, training for responsible service, Department of Revenue, compliance, accountability, who's already stretched very thin. As we continue to chip away at this three-tier system, which this bill does, we may have to re-grab control of the regulation of this industry like we're trying to do with the prescription drug industry right now with the PDMP and lawsuits. So I would urge us to hold tight to the three-tier system and do not degrade it further with SB 420.
Thank you for being with us. Anybody got questions? Mike? All right, appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Senator Ginn.
I'm not sure if it'd be appropriate, but I'd love to have maybe Martin Smith address the question about beer wholesalers and this guy saying they can't get product delivered.
You might be killing one of these other bills on our agenda though.
I don't want to do that.
We'll let him speak again before we would take any action. The sponsor's not asked for a vote today. All right. All right, got a quick question from Chairman Brass. Who you asked?
You, Mr. Chairman, should we be concerned about our colleague buying 5 cases of beer at one time? Do we need to have an intervention with him?
We better not say anything else about that because qualifying's coming up pretty soon. I hate to get him in trouble. All right, we're going to hear from Senator Gooch, Senate Bill 529. Mr. Whip, you can present from there if you'd like to.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman and
There is a
colleagues.
committee sub in your folders. Has a very minor change. What's the number on? Substitute is LC 365193S. All right.
So this bill should be fairly quick to get through. Just give you a little background. As most of you are aware, we levy franchise fees in Georgia. Cities primarily do that on their right-of-ways. A franchise fee is simply a lease payment by a cable provider, telephone company, or power company for the use of the city's right-of-way. There's some limited franchise fees allowed in counties, but primarily it's in cities. Back years ago, when the franchise fees laws were adopted, we didn't have such things as Hulu and Disney Plus or Sling and all these other streaming services that you're seeing now that are popping up on the internet. And so there's been a couple of occasions in Georgia recently where some municipalities and even one county government has tried to adopt an ordinance to apply the franchise fee laws against the revenues for downloading digital, audio, visual, and streaming services. And we believe that is in strict violation of the intent of what the franchise fee laws were adopted to do. They went as far as to charge that franchise fee, which again was lease of right-of-ways. They applied that same fee to satellite services. And we know their satellite services are not connected in the right-of-ways at all. So this bill simply clarifies state law, and it cleans up some of the language in the existing law about franchise fees, and that it exempts all streaming services that I just mentioned. So that's all the bill does. It's short and sweet.
I'd recognize Senator Albers for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Majority Whip Gooch, for this great bill. Won't this also help out for those who are needing broadband access when kids were home from school, as well as helping our businesses out in rural Georgia?
Absolutely.
Thank
you for bringing that up. Appreciate it.
Other questions? All right, I have Chris Balch via Zoom to testify. If y'all can hook him up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I appreciate you letting me be here appear virtually before you. I serve as the city attorney for the city of Brookhaven, and the city has specifically authorized me to appear today before the committee to oppose Senate Bill 529. As the majority whip mentioned, Brookhaven is one of the named plaintiffs in the lawsuit that was pending until last Friday in Gwinnett County against a number of these companies related to the payment of franchise fees, which I believe the General Assembly expressly authorized. The trial court dismissed that lawsuit, finding that the law as it stands does not provide for the franchise fees that we believe we were due. The court drew a distinction between companies like Google, Comcast, and others versus services like Apple TV Plus, Hulu, or Netflix, who allege that they do not have hardware in the right-of-way. To the extent the trial court is correct, the majority whip's bill is a solution looking for a problem. More importantly, however, the bill seeks to play favorites in the content delivery marketplace. If you have legacy equipment physically installed in the right-of-way, you pay a fee for that privilege of using the city-owned property. If you claim you do not, but you utilize those same wires and cables and other infrastructure to distribute your content, then you get a free pass and gain a competitive advantage over companies with cables and wire in the ground. This advantage applies whether the content is received via wired cable or via cellular service, because even cellular service relies on back channel cabling in the right-of-way to connect to distribution and transmission centers. Municipal corporations authorized and created by the General Assembly are property owners just like any other entity, person, or authority. The Georgia Department of Transportation controls its right-of-way and how they are accessed and charges fees for those services located in their right-of-way. Similarly, the state's parks and recreational facilities similarly control the land they administer for the public good. Local governments, cities, and counties are no different than these other public agencies and bodies. Cities and counties hold land in trust for the benefit and good of the residents and their boundaries. Our Constitution places a fiduciary duty on those local governments to exercise great care over property held in trust for public purposes. Rights of way are no different than any other land held in fee simple by any other person or entity. The rights of way are public land held in public trust and are being utilized by these companies for the purposes of earning revenue. This body would not tell John or Josephine Citizen they must give up their land for a public purpose without due compensation. In fact, this body expressly enacted OCGA section 22-19 for the express purpose of limiting such an outcome. Cities are not the enemy here. Brookhaven is not the enemy. Every city in Georgia seeks to follow the law as you pass it like any other citizen, corporation, authority, or agency of this state. This bill serves no reasonable purpose and should not be passed.
All right, any questions for Mr. Balch? All right, thank you for sharing with us today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Damon Stewart, Dish Network, Direct TV. You want to do, I'll let you do here if you want to, but you won't be able to be seen on TV. Yeah.
Chairman Cowsert, Vice Chairman Brass, members of the committee. Thank you for letting me speak here today. My name is Damon Stewart. I'm here with my colleague, Kate Owen. We're from Oric, Harrington, Sutcliffe, but we represent Dish Network and DirecTV and their hundreds of thousands of subscribers, customers here in the state. In fact, there's about 650,000 satellite video customers between the companies and about another 250,000 that utilize just their OTT platform services. That would be Sling for Dish Network or DirecTV Stream for DirecTV. I want to emphasize what this bill, what this proposed language does not do. What this bill does not do is change in any way state policy. All we're asking is that it clarifies years and years and years of existing policy regarding who should pay franchise fees when they have their physical infrastructure that they own and operate in the right of way. It reaffirms the status quo that only those with that infrastructure in the right of way have to pay franchise fees, rent, as was said earlier. And that would be most commonly, of course, cable. It's already been stated why we're asking for the bill. We have municipalities all through the country, including 3 here in the state, that have, after, again, years of this existing statute, come up with a creative, perhaps I would say strained, new interpretation of what the language means, and basically saying that these streaming companies have to pay, as you know, franchise fees. If we don't get some clarification as to what the intent is and always was, then all of our customers will pay franchise fees, as well as millions more in the state who subscribe to any number of OTT streaming services that I'm sure you're all aware of. So that'll be a 5% franchise fee on each and every streaming bill. And to be clear, by the way, most people already pay a 5% franchise fee for the existing line that, among other things, provides them internet. So if these plaintiffs are successful, and I know there was a blow dealt right now, but this is going to be appealed, as those appeals are going to last for years. We don't know what a final judge may rule, which is why we're here today. If they're successful, we'll see Georgia business family subscribers pay fee after fee after fee after fee stacked up just for using the same line that they're already paying a franchise fee for. So for example, if a household like many mine, you have say a Comcast or Cox or Charter connection, you also have Sling or Netflix. I'm already paying the 5% for my cable franchise fee, and if this litigation were successful, another 5% for my Sling, another 5% for my Netflix, another 5% for my Hulu. There's no end. Indeed, by the logic of the argument, providing a video service over somebody else's cable line in the right of way, this could be extended to newspapers. My local paper, I'm sure most do now, have a streaming component. They provide videos with their content. If an auto mechanic wanted to provide a how-to video to repair a truck, change your oil, fix a transmission, franchise fee. Church streaming other services. It's a video service provided over the right of way, again, through other people, cable line, franchise fee. And by the way, if these 3 municipalities are successful, every city in the state now can impose these fees after fees after fees on all their citizens. I just would submit again that all we're asking for is a restatement, a rephrasing of existing law. There is an exemption in there. It was written in the early 2000s before streaming really became a thing. And I think if it was to be rewritten today, I wouldn't be here right now. We just need to rewrite the existing language to remind folks that streaming companies that basically just use the internet like everybody else aren't an appropriate source of franchise fees. Let's not put fee after fee after fee on use of the internet.
So the 3 communities that tried to impose this fee went to court, and the judge ruled against them and said they were not allowed to do that.
Yes.
Okay. We're waiting to see if they appeal that.
I thought I heard a suggestion that the appeal was underway. I might have missed that, but there's going to be an appeal.
So this bill would back the judge's ruling that held you're not able to do it. Just clarify that.
Just in case there's any question left,
All right.
Franchise fees don't apply to streamers. That's simple.
Any questions for Mr. Stewart? All right. Thank you for sharing with us today.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. You're recognized, Senator.
If you're
King.
ready for a motion, we
Yeah,
can
you're
help you
welcome.
with that.
If you'd like to, go right ahead.
I move Duke pass on LC 3651993S, the Senate
Got a
Bill
second by the
529.
Vice Chairman, Senator Brass. Any discussion? Wow. You would be the fourth. You had, any discussion? Senator Lucas. Let's hear your wisdom today.
I don't know about wisdom, but basically this will allow them to sell more at that particular business. Will this allow them to be distributors now? Oh, you talking about the video free? They all right.
Told you we. Told you had some wisdom. All right. Any other discussion?
I would like to make one comment.
All right, go right ahead.
Just for the record,
Gooch.
GMA is in the room, but they are not taking a position against this bill.
All right. Okay, motion's on the table. There's been a second. Discussion's closed. All in favor, raise your, do you have discussion, Senator Mullis? All right, all in favor, raise your hand. We got
Magnanimous.
all opposed. All right, it passed unanimously. All right, we got one down. Let's go on to Senate Bill 495. Senator Brass, this is your bill and you can present from where you are or the podium, whatever suits you best. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I decided to come up here for the millions watching at home that
I'm sure they'll be interested. Speaking
a
of
little
those,
easier for them to follow.
we do not have anybody signed up by Zoom for this, so you can dispense with that. Thank you. Go right ahead.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today I'm presenting Senate Bill 495. It's LC 365113. And first I want to talk a little bit about the history of it. I'll be brief with it, and then I'll get into what's actually in the bill. And I think the history is important so that I can really clarify what the intent is, and then I'll leave it up to the wisdom of the committee as to whether we hit that intent or not. So, this fight, I believe it started kind of at the federal level and they punted on it down to the states. And so what you've seen at the state level is this really turned into a fight between two entities. You've got Live Nation and Stubhub fighting over policy and how this should be done. And quite honestly, I'm not interested in getting in the middle of that fight, although I know this bill inserts me in the middle of that fight. That is certainly not my intent, because I do believe in the value of both companies. I think they bring great economic development and tourism to this state, and want to make sure that all parties that are involved in this industry, I want them all to thrive. So my intent is more geared towards the consumer, trying to protect the consumer by introducing a little more competition into this industry. And if we can do that, I think more competition helps keep prices down lower. And so that's really my focus and my goal. And I'm doing that with SB 495. And the way I'm doing, we'll start in section 1 at line 12. We're clearly defining what a non-transferable ticket is. And on line 13, I think that's is pretty self-evident what a non-transferable means. But we're also adding in line 15 that it requires the ticket holder, or we are saying that a non-transferable ticket requires the ticket holder and ticket purchaser to facilitate the exchange of the ticket exclusively through an application program operated by the original ticket seller. Now, what that means and what we're seeing in the current industry is tickets are coming available, and one of the examples I think that probably best used is actually with the Atlanta Braves and Stubhub. Atlanta Braves, I don't know the exact details of their arrangement, but their tickets are only transferable up through Stubhub. And so when that ticket goes to StubHub essentially is the only online venue that can sell those tickets. And so what we're trying to do is, if you'll fast forward in the bill over to lines 45 and 46, in that part of the bill, what we're saying is if you're going to do you can offer a non-transferable ticket, but you also have to offer, and you can add a fee, whatever business arrangement you make, you can do that. Like the Atlanta Braves could offer that ticket as they have to offer it as transferable with a fee, and then it would have to be available across all platforms. So they couldn't simply do it with just StubHub. So they would be able to do it through with, I think, Ticketmaster's venue, and then of course there's several others. So they would have to do, and the way I like to think of it is whatever arrangement they have, that fee they could build into that transferable ticket. So if they want to do it non-transferable, that's fine, but they do have to offer it as transferable, and then they build that fee in basically on the front end instead of on the back end, if that makes sense. And so really that's the gist of what we're doing here. If you, on page 2, just to clarify, we're in that section there, in that line 17 and on down. Essentially, if you're a private property owner, a private entity, and you're having a local event, we're certainly not going to be getting involved in that. So we're just simply carving that out. So with that, I'm sure I just caused a lot of questions.
Just one question from my understanding of this. So if an act makes an agreement with one of the venues you mentioned that they cannot sell their tickets or something to that effect, how does this bill affect that? How does that work?
So if they have that arrangement, well, then they also have to offer a ticket that can be transferred, and they can build a fee in. It can't be a penalizing fee, but they could put some sort of fee that would discourage the transfer of that ticket. And once they do, then that ticket now, instead of going basically vertically through just one vendor, it would now have to be more horizontal across several vendors.
If it
So
has that in it, if it has that.
correct.
clause in the
That is the intent. Yes.
Other questions? All right, Senator Rhett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Which one of these what are the name of the companies involved here?
So Live Nation and Ticketmaster, and I believe the gentleman is one entity on one side that's opposing this, and then StubHub is in favor of.
So
Those are the two main players in this battle.
Ticketmaster right now, is their status usually the primary seller?
We have a gentleman here from Live Nation, so that's probably going to be better directed towards him, I would say.
But
I don't
now
want
they're
to.
trying to get into the resale part.
So my understanding is they do have a resale portion of their company. Again, I know he can explain this better than I. My understanding is they do have a resale part of their company.
I noticed the letter here that you have. You got the Braves and a number of teams seem like they have a position on this bill. Would you like to expand on that?
I have not read their letters yet, but yes, I do know they had some reservations.
There's a
And,
letter in our folders if you want to look from the teams.
They have reservations of this bill.
They're opposed to the bill.
Yeah.
I think we'll.
Basically, they're opposed to the bill.
what does it say? They oppose it or they have reservations?
Well, what do you want?
I'm not going to read it in the record. Senator Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm taking it you're for free market enterprise.
Yes, sir, I am.
And one of the things that if I went to my friendly neighborhood Honda salesman and asked him to buy a Cadillac, he'd probably give me the best price in the world because he doesn't have one. And one of the problems that I have is, you know, I've dealt a little bit with the technology. It's a little bit of a challenge, but I get tickets and I like to be able to either hold the piece of paper or be able to just email it or text it to somebody. Hey, here's the QR code for the ticket, and I can send it that way without dealing with any third party. Does your bill make it easier or harder to do that?
I believe it would make it easier. I mean, again, that's the intent. I want to protect the consumer, and you know, I mean, the way it's structured, you wouldn't actually own that ticket. You just actually kind of own a license to sit in that seat. But however, I do think that once you purchase that license to sit in that seat, you should be able to. It is yours for until the end of that concert or event or whatever. And I believe that you should be able to transfer that to whoever you like.
And and your bill would allow me to transfer it to somebody without any third party intervention, or I can go directly from me to whoever I want to give the ticket to.
Yes.
I'd have to pay a fee.
I think the chairman here might have said what I was thinking, because let's say if I went on a Saturday night to a hog calling contest in downtown Chickamauga, and I had Chickamauga, and I had some tickets, but I couldn't make it because I had tickets, and I decided I want to give them to the pro tem. If I go through a third company, is there a fee involved with that?
There typically is, yes. If
Instead
you
of me
went through a
just saying
third.
here, pro tem.
I got your tickets to Hong Kong. It took a mogwai.
Other questions? All right, we have several people signed up to speak. Laura Dooley from Stubhub.
Thank you, sir. Members of the committee. Hi, my name is Laura Dooley. I'm the head of government relations from Stubhub. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today to testify in favor of Senate Bill 495. Just a quick background on Stubhub. We were founded in 2000, and we really revolutionized the secondary ticket sale market by creating a safe, secure, and transparent platforms for buyers and sellers to connect and purchase tickets. 20 plus years later, Stubhub is a trusted platform globally. In 2019 alone, we helped buyers in all 50 states, Puerto Rico, the District of Columbia, the Virgin Islands, and 19 countries buy tickets to events in Georgia. Today, resale of tickets is a common and integrated part of the live events industry. So much so that every major sports team, most venues, and essentially most events are at least partnering and enabling secondary ticketing in some capacity. We've come so far with secondary ticket sales. The debate today is really not about whether resale is good or bad. The debate today is who should control resale. Should it be controlled by the consumer who purchased the ticket, or should it be controlled by the entity that sold them that ticket? Senate Bill 495, from our perspective, says that the consumer should be in control, that when they buy a ticket, they should make the decisions moving forward. And that's why Stubhub supports this bill, because when the consumer is in control, we can actually compete on a fair and open marketplace. And why is this important? It's important because teams, artists, and ticket issuers today are increasingly dictating to consumers if and how they can control the tickets that they've rightfully purchased. In the most egregious example, the team, the venue, the ticketing platform may say to that consumer, this ticket is non-transferable, full stop. You use it or you don't use it, but you can't give it to somebody else. Most frequently, though, what we're seeing today is the suggestion that the ticket is transferable as long as you transfer it through us. Competitors, be damned, excuse my language, but you have to transfer it through us. So Senate Bill 495, we think, is a common sense solution to this growing trend. These restrictions limit consumer choice, they impede competition, and they're frankly an attempt to monopolize consumer data. This legislation simply inserts an option at the original time of sale for consumers to say, these restrictions either work for me or they don't. And if they don't work for them, consumers can opt out. You may have heard things from opponents in the letters in your bill, or maybe what you might hear in testimony today is that legislation like this is going to make it easier for companies like Stubhub to gobble up all the tickets and resell them to you. That's not true. This legislation does not touch or impact the number of tickets that any company or individual can buy. Ticket issuers are able to set limits on the number of tickets that any one person or one company can buy, and nothing in this legislation would impact those ticket limits. They can still certainly be enforced, and if people violate those limits, they can be penalized for doing so. Again, I think arguments like this are meant to confuse the issue, where really the issue comes right down to control. Who should be in control, the consumer or the person who sold that ticket to the consumer? Stubhub is in support of the consumer on this one, and that's why we support Senate Bill 495 and encourage your support as well. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, you brought up a good point. You guys got into business in what, 2000?
Yes, sir.
So before that, we had a lot of criminal statutes that prohibited the resale of tickets. We call it ticket scalping. What was the public policy behind that? And why did all these states prohibit the resale of tickets?
It's a great question. And I can't speak to the genesis of those laws. I suggest it's probably because there is a perceived value for the given ticket, and an exchange above that value was deemed to be inappropriate at that time. I can tell you that since 2000, 45 states, including Georgia, have actually removed those laws or allow for the resale at the market rate, whether it be above or below the original purchase price, assuming certain conditions are met, like customer protections, offering refunds in case of a canceled event, things along those lines. So what we've seen, at least in my time in this industry, is states move in the other direction and allow for resale to occur at the market value. And I think that's particularly interesting in this day and age as well, because the idea of a face value for a ticket has really kind of gone up in the air. Tickets are frequently priced dynamically on the secondary market, certainly, but also on the primary market. So you may go buy a ticket to a game and you'll see a notice that says, the prices of these tickets will fluctuate up and down based on the market and how demand is going. And that's certainly the right of any team to do that. We think it's also the right of a consumer to do that after they've purchased their ticket.
A question from committee members, Senator Mullis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So when you buy a ticket, you don't actually kind of own that ticket. This is kind of a legal way of scalping tickets. Would you classify it as that way?
We don't stipulate that a ticket isn't a license. It certainly is a license, and in any courtroom, that's what they would tell you. But we do stipulate that from a consumer standpoint, they don't think that way. They think that when they bought it, it should be theirs, and they should be able to make decisions on it moving forward.
And of course, they can sell it for whatever price they decide.
Correct.
Okay.
Senator Tippins, I recognize you for a question.
I don't know a whole lot about buying tickets because I don't generally pay money to see somebody else perform. I always figured if I wasn't playing, I probably wouldn't watch somebody else play. But all that aside, help me understand this. Now,
what was your sport?
Speak for yourself, Mr. Pro Tem. Speak for yourself, Mr. Pro Tem. Okay, let me understand this. I'm in favor of whoever buys the ticket being able to sell the ticket. I know y'all are in business to make money, so how do you make money off of that?
Absolutely. So in our industry, we provide a service, a platform. So we make money by charging a fee for the use of that service. So
say that one more time.
sorry, we make money by providing a fee for using the Stubhub service, the Stubhub platform.
And what is the Stubhub platform? How does it work?
Sure. So if you have a ticket that for an event that you can no longer attend, you can come on our site, enter in the details of that ticket, and choose what price you want to sell that ticket for. On Stubhub, you can list the ticket for free. So it's advertised and we do the marketing behind it. People come to our site, you look at the ticket. If the ticket sells, you would pay a fee for the service of using our site. So there's a sell fee involved. You do collect the money of the cost of the ticket. So if a ticket costs $100, you list it for $100, you get paid out $100 minus the fee for using our service.
So does Stubhub buy a large volume of tickets on the front end?
So
different events?
with
and
StubHub, it's typically StubHub's, our inventory comes from buyers, consumers. Sometimes they come from professional ticket sellers that are known as brokers. Brokers are regulated under the Georgia statute today. So that's where we source our tickets, is from third parties.
Okay, thank you.
1 second. Senator Gooch, you're recognized, then you'll be next, Senator Rhett.
My question's similar to Doc Rhett's. If I want to buy tickets to a mud wrestling contest in Alabama, how do I know these tickets are not counterfeit? Regardless of who you buy them from,
Sure.
Ticketmaster versus that, but also we've heard Live Nation and Ticketmaster, and now we have StubHub. Are there any others? Could there be others? And how do you qualify to sell tickets?
Absolutely. So there are, in the primary space, there's not a lot of competition. I think it's well documented that Ticketmaster controls about 70 to 80% of every ticket first sold. There are a few competitors in that space. AXS is one that comes to mind, as well as others. In the secondary space, it's a little bit of a deeper pool. So StubHub competes directly against Ticketmaster, which also has a resale platform. We compete against a company called Vivid Seats, SeatGeek, TickPick, Game Time. There are several, and we think competition enhances the consumer experience overall. So the more the merrier.
So can I follow up? How do I know I'm getting a valid ticket regardless of who I buy it from?
Sure. Yeah.
If you spend $1,000 for a playoff seats, how do you know that's going to be valid when you walk through the gates?
We always encourage customers that are purchasing tickets to buy from platforms that have significant customer protections in place. So for example, many of the platforms I just named would have policies in place to either teams that work on verification of the validity of the ticket, that work behind the scenes to investigate counterfeits or incidences of fraud. Certainly platforms that offer refunds to customers if, gosh forbid, something happens with the ticket you've purchased and you don't get in the gate. Just by way of example, on StubHub, we far less than 1% of our customers have an issue with the tickets that they've purchased. And in reality, it's actually much less than 0.5%. If something happens with the ticket purchase on StubHub, we have a policy in place where we will first and foremost try to find replacement tickets for you for that event, because we know what you really want is to attend the event that you want to attend. If that's not possible, what we'll do is provide a refund in that situation. And I think any platform willing to do that has the tools in place to make sure that their tickets are valid, because they certainly don't want to go out of pocket for that type of experience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Rhett.
I think the senator pretty much discussed what I was thinking. I think with the organization, it creates a consumer confident feeling to know that you were able to get a ticket for, let's say, a sporting event and know that it's genuine, unlike the ones the senator from Chickamauga gave me the other night, where I wasn't Mulga. And when I got to the gate, they weren't authentic. But I think with your organization, there's consumer confidence. Also, when you talk about in terms of a monopoly, it opens up friendly competition.
Absolutely.
Would you like to expand on that, or?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, and I think most would agree, competition is good for the consumer. When consumers have choices, and that's what we're suggesting needs to happen in this industry, is let consumers decide. Then they can shop around and say, you know what? StubHub fees are high today. I'm going to Vivid, or I'm going to SeatGeek, or, I find that the customer service at, TickPick isn't great. I don't want to deal with them. I'm going to deal with a company that I feel confident in. And when that choice is out there, I think customers have a better overall experience. And I think it lends to a better overall industry as well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Carl Zabo, am I pronouncing that right? You related to Chris Zabo in any way?
I wish be much more famous. For those of y'all who don't follow baseball, Chris Zabo is a famous baseball player. Thank you very much. My name is Carl Zabo. I am Vice President and General Counsel of NetChoice. I'm also adjunct professor at George Mason Antonin Scalia School of Law. Because the question invariably will come up, what is NetChoice? Well, we're a trade association that promotes free expression and free enterprise. Our members include Etsy, eBay, StubHub, Nextdoor, and OfferUp. And if you see a theme there, what it's about is giving power to the people. It's creating competition and choice in the marketplace. It's about letting people get rid of stuff that they don't need easily and through intermediaries. So this is actually a pretty simple bill. So this is a pen, bought it at Staples, paid about, let's say, $1 for it. Imagine Staples said to me when I bought this pen that if I wanted to give it to anyone in this room, if I wanted to give it to my father, I would have to first give it to Staples and then they would hand it off to y'all, or they would hand it off to my father. They might charge me a fee for that. That's insane. We would balk at that. That doesn't almost even make sense. But that's what we're talking about here today with tickets. If you go out to a venue and you get a ticket, you expect to be able to give it away. I'm not going to use mud wrestling, but I'll use monster trucks. Let's presume monster trucks. No monster trucks. Okay. The guitar. Let's go with Journey. How about the group Journey? Everybody's okay with that one. Okay. So imagine that when you go out and buy your tickets, you couldn't easily transfer them. You couldn't easily give them away. How would that make you feel? We went out and we actually surveyed Georgia consumers, and about 8 out of 10 said that when they buy their ticket, they view it as their property. About 8 out of 10 say that they should be able to give away, transfer, or resell their tickets however they want. Now, what you're going to hear from Ticketmaster is they're going to come up and say, oh, only about 1% of our tickets are restricted and non-transferable. Well, you have to begin unpacking that because there's a lot in that statement. I, as a lawyer, like to look in the details of what people say. So are they transferable? Sure. Are they freely transferable is the question. And the answer is more often than not, no. There are tickets available today for the Atlanta Hawks that the only way to transfer them is through the Ticketmaster system. The only way to get a ticket right now is through a digital ticket. They're transferable, but they're not freely transferable. My father is pushing 90. If I wanted to easily transfer him a ticket to the Atlanta Hawks through the Ticketmaster system, he'd have to download the app, create a profile, log in, hand over some personal information, and only then could I transfer him the ticket. Well, especially not after going through this process, because Lord knows I do enough tech support for my family. This is just adding another impediment to making that an easy system. In the old days, what would you do? You just call him up, say, hey, Dad, I got some extra tickets, hand him the tickets. He goes, sees the show. So the argument of only a small percentage are restricted, you need to unpack that a little bit more and ask, how are they transferable or are they freely transferable? And what I mean by freely transferable is exactly what I described, handing you off the ticket. And that's what this bill does. It says that you are guaranteed a right to have a unrestricted ticket, freely transferable. It's not saying Ticketmaster can't charge you an extra $50 to do it. If they want to, that's the free market. All it's saying is it's giving consumers a choice. Another thing I want to talk about, because you're going to hear, oh, it's not us, it's the artists. The artists are the ones who are making us do it. It's not our fault. There was a mention of a group called Live Nation. So one of as I said, there's a lot to unpack outside of this bill. Live Nation is the parent company for Ticketmaster. Live Nation bought Ticketmaster a couple of years ago. When they did, the Department of Justice had them enter into what's called a consent decree. They said, we're really worried because Ticketmaster is gigantic and they're about 75, 80% of the market. Live Nation, you're pretty gigantic. And what they do is they basically control the groups and the artists and their stuff like that. So when they merged, the Department of Justice said, if you do this, there are a couple things you can't do. It was called a consent decree. Turns out they broke that consent decree. And they said, I'm really sorry, it won't happen again. And the response was from the Department of Justice, fine, we're going to extend the consent decree so you can't do it again. That would be like me telling my kids, if you don't eat your dinner, you're not going to get dessert. They don't eat their dinner, they still get dessert. I'm like, yeah, but if you don't eat your dinner tomorrow night, then you're not going to get dessert. Well, it doesn't matter. The damage has already been done. So Live Nation controls the artists. They control the primary ticket sellers because they own about 70% of the ticket sales, and they own many of the venues. So I went and pulled how many venues does Live Nation Ticketmaster own? Just in Georgia, we got Buckhead, Candace Bank, Solaris, Coca-Cola, Roxy, Cotton Club, and I only got up through the letter C. So they got the artists, they got the primary ticket seller, they got the venue. That's a vertical monopoly. That's vertical integration. Now what we're seeing is them trying to leverage that into horizontal monopoly and trying to control how you resell those tickets. So you're going to hear a lot of FUD about, oh, it's not us, it's the artist making us do it. Well, they control the artist. Well, it's not us, we're just doing what the venues tell us to do. Well, they control the venues too. And the last argument that sometimes comes up is, well, it's going to open the door to a bunch of bad people coming in and grabbing up all the tickets. Well, here's the thing. You have a law on the books today that says, that prevents what's called the Anti-Bots Act. So people can't come in and use computer algorithms to go and gobble up all the tickets. And if they do, they break the law. Your AG can enforce it. If people are doing that today, I say throw the book at them. But you know who's going to know when somebody comes in and gobbles up all the tickets? Ticketmaster. They're in the position to stop people from doing that. And I get it. Ticketmaster's job isn't to really worry about who's buying the tickets. Their job is to sell the tickets. So if their number one concern is bad actors are going to come in and gobble up all the tickets, then they should be having regular conversations with your state AG to throw the book at those bad actors. So there's a lot of arguments on the other side that don't really play out in reality. But the simple answer is you go out and you buy something, you own it. You should be able to give it away, transfer it, or do whatever the heck you want with it, however you want. And that's all this bill does. So that's why we vehemently support this legislation and ask Georgia to join at least 6 other states that have already enacted similar legislation.
A couple questions for you. It keeps rambling around my mind at the Augusta National Golf Tournament. They do not allow the transferability of their badges or the resale of them. And they're able to control, their clientele, their guests, their patrons, as they call them, coming to the tournament. How does that fit in with this? If they want their tickets or their badges to be non-transferable?
So
some of y'all sell those, don't you, online on your platforms?
I can't speak to whether they're sold. So NetChoice isn't a platform. We're a trade association, so I can't speak to that. And with respect to Augusta, I can't speak to that specifically. But one of the things that's important to recognize, many of the venues we're talking about today are paid for and built with taxpayer dollars. The police that protect them are paid for with taxpayer dollars. The roads that get people to and from are paid with taxpayer dollars. This hands more power back to the taxpayers, which are your constituents. And to the extent that there are certain types of situations where it's like it's a 3-day pass and you got to make sure it's the same person, that's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today is when you make the initial purchase, you just need to be given the option of buying a transferable ticket. And if a venue wants to charge you an extra $500 to make that possible, that's their right. And the market and consumers will, vote with their feet. But this is giving them the option to have that vote.
So am I correct that this bill prohibits a venue or professional sports team or whoever from having an exclusive arrangement with the ticket broker or whatever these platforms are called?
The exclusive arrangement with ticket brokers is not affected in any material way. So let's use the example of
if they have an exclusive arrangement, then how do the consumers have choice to use multiple platforms?
So I wish that I had multiple places to buy tickets for an event. I really do. I bought tickets the other day through Ticketmaster, and half the total cost was fees. And I wish there were competition in the marketplace because those fees would be lower, but there wasn't. So, but this doesn't even begin to touch that. So Arm & Hammer is a good example. They're performing over at Buckhead. Their tickets available through Ticketmaster exclusively. Ticketmaster owns that venue actually. So the only way to buy those tickets through Ticketmaster. This has absolutely nothing to do with that agreement. That's the primary ticket sale. Ticketmaster can retain their 75-80% control primary ticket marketplace with this. What we're talking about is just making sure that they don't extend that monopoly on the resale, on the giveaway, on the transfer.
Senator Mullis, you got a question?
You dang right I do. Are you aware we're not in a court of law here? Are you, yes or no question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you aware there's no jury or judge here? I mean, you just slandered a group of people. We should put people like this under oath. I just resent how your attitude is about testifying. You should be testifying for the bill or against the bill, not slandering your opposition. So, Mr. Chairman, I resent this, and I want to go on protest. I may do a majority report about this.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is a hearing only, but we're glad to have heard from you there. Anybody else got questions here? All right, Senator Harvey.
One question, for my clarification, so if I go to a venue and I buy it online, like this applies only to online, not at some location, right? If I buy a ticket and $1,000 ticket to see some great act or something, and I want to give it to my son or daughter, I cannot do it if I buy it online. I have to pay a fee. I have to go back to where I bought it from, get them to buy it back, and then put it in my son or daughter's name. Is that?
So today, the way it operates in several events is exactly that. You buy the ticket, it's under your name. If you want to transfer it to your son and daughter's name, you would have to go through.
So I have to show an ID when I present my ticket for entry into the event?
Some I can't speak if Ticketmaster still does this, but at one point they actually required proof of ID to enter an event to verify that the name on the ticket matched the name on your driver's license.
All right, other questions? Thank you for being with us. We got, Dr. Rett, question, not a.
I was just trying to find out, are you for or against this bill?
I am vehemently in favor of this legislation.
Okay, I just.
All right.
Because, using electronic is a way of life now. I remember I went to the restaurant the other night and I was looking for a menu and they told me I had to download something on my phone and get a QR code.
I'm just trying to keep it simple for consumers at the end of the day. If they want to have a digital version, they can have a digital version. If they want to have a paper version, they can have a paper version. Just like when you enter the restaurant, if you want a paper menu, I sure as heck hope more restaurants can provide you a paper menu because we got enough technology tracking us today. We don't need another one.
I think we agree competition is good.
Yes.
And not having a monopoly instead of having a monopoly. All right. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brian Hess from the Sports Fans Coalition. Only got a couple more speakers, committee members, y'all hanging tight.
Chairman Kelsert, members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is Brian Hess. I'm the Executive Director of the Sports Fans Coalition. Founded in 2009, SFC is a national nonprofit advocacy organization devoted to representing fans wherever public policy impacts the games we love. We fight for pay equality for women athletes, name, image, and likeness rights for student athletes, sports bettors, consumer protections, and a competitive, transparent ticketing marketplace. I'd like to thank the committee for allowing me to testify today in favor of Senate Bill 495. Transferability is the cornerstone of any pro-fan ticketing marketplace. In this vein, we support this bill, which grants that right to all of Georgia's sports fans. Those who oppose this legislation may have told you that restrictive tickets protect consumers by eliminating bad actors in the secondary marketplace. This is false. In actuality, this bill is about empowering fans. Sports fans don't just buy tickets, they sell tickets too. Season ticket holders want the freedom to sell their tickets if they can't make it to a game due to illness, work obligations, or any other reason. The ease of resale encourages fans to invest more into their home teams and potentially gives consumers and fans alike the opportunity to purchase season tickets. And in the event of an unforeseen circumstance, they'll have the ability to recoup some of that cost. The right of a fan to transfer his or her ticket to whomever they want should be protected, and the majority of Georgians agree. I urge a favorable report on SB 495, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
I hadn't heard of your organization. How many folks y'all got, the Sports Fans Coalition?
Nationwide, we have close to 40,000 members.
Yeah. And are you lobbying on different issues as well on behalf of the sports fans? Or
yes. So I lobby on sports betting issues, pay equality for women athletes, name, image, and likeness rights for college athletes, as well as television rights, and trying to make sure that people have access to the games on broadcast.
All right. Committee members have questions for Mr. Hess? Senator Rett.
Does this Chickamauga, does this technology already exist in other states when it comes to concerts?
You mean transferability on platforms?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it does exist. In most places, people use digital tickets now. And all we're asking is that even if you have that digital ticket, that it be transferable regardless of the platform.
One thing the sports teams have mentioned in their letter that's in our file is by limiting the transferability or letting them have that power, they can keep out unruly fans or people that may have been kicked out of a, game before or something, that lose their privilege to continue going to those games. What you're one of those, the fans advocate. What do the fans think about that? Is that good or bad to limit?
Well, nothing about this bill, sir, limits a venue's right to remove someone who's violating their rules and their guidelines. If there is a drunk fan and they need to be removed from the stadium, they should be removed, and nothing about this bill precludes that.
Yeah, but without this bill, they could ban that fan for life. They couldn't buy another ticket.
They can
or
still
for the
ban, I
season.
mean, they can still ban that fan for life. When they take that fan from the seats, they can check their ID and put their name on a list.
Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you.
Trey Paris, the Atlanta Braves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to be mercifully brief. I know the hour is growing long. I'm Trey Paris. I'm with Taylor English Decisions. We represent the Atlanta Braves. And in all honesty, I'm actually pinch hitting for my colleague Earl Earhart. He had a death in the family and couldn't be here. He was going to testify. His father passed. So I just simply wanted to get up and officially go on record in registering the Atlanta Braves' very strong opposition to SB 495, to this legislation. I also wanted to bring your attention, it sounds like you've seen it, but I wanted to bring your attention to the letter that's in your file. And that's on behalf of all 4 Atlanta professional sports teams, as well as the venues. So that's really all I wanted to do, was to, again, express our strong opposition. This legislation creates myriad concerns. I think you're starting to hear that for the teams, the venues, and the fans. It's not in the best interest of our Georgia teams as well as our sports fans here. So with that, I'm actually, I know we've got one more speaker, and Mr. Conlon with Live Nation. So I'm going to defer to him because he can probably talk better than I can about some of the more details of the ticketing. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Conlon, you're free to sit here if you'd rather at the witness chair. If you'll, I'll try to make sure I can figure out what mic you got. So give that one a test.
Is that, can you hear me on this?
Okay, that's it.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I appreciate this opportunity to try to clarify some of the information you've heard today. This is very simply a bill written by scalpers for scalpers. It is merely an attempt to open up more inventory and better inventory that they can sell then at a high premium. Ticketmaster and Live Nation do not set tickets to be non-transferable. We do it at the request of the artist. If an artist has specific tickets in a certain area that they don't want to be transferred, then we honor that. The majority of tickets are transferable, and you can transfer them through Live Nation at no charge to anybody you want on the Live Nation app. Unfortunately, in the new world, we're all digital. You know, when I started doing this 40 years ago, we had paper tickets, which personally I liked, but that's gone and it's not coming back. You know, Live Nation, you know, has a huge investment in the Atlanta market and in Georgia. We have 5 venues that we own and operate here. We've made those investments for millions of dollars, which brings shows here to Georgia. We get no public money. We pay for all our police, all our security, everything we pay ourselves. We used our own capital to build everything. We just helped develop the arena in Savannah that we opened last week with the Eagles. So we're involved in that. We have an office here, about 130 people. We generate a lot of economic impact for the city and the state. Music Midtown, the festival we do, I know it generates at least $40 million in economic impact for the city. I have 15 stadium shows in Atlanta this summer between Mercedes and Truist, not to mention all the shows we do at State Farm. There are 4 stakeholders in this, and that's the artist, the promoter, the building, and the ticketing company. They work together in junction to fulfill the artist's needs. The artist decides if they want a ticket to be priced a certain way, if they want it sold a certain way, and if they want it to be non-transferable. We merely do what the artist requests. We don't decide if something's not non-transferable. An issue is in my contracts, it specifically with any artist says I'm not allowed to work with scalpers. They don't want tickets resold. Okay. They set the price they want to be the market price, not scalpers. They know they could get a lot more money for the first 20 rows, but they don't want to gouge their fans. They want to make sure that everyone has an ability to get those tickets. And if you make it transferable, then they'll be the target of the scalpers and bots, and they'll go after those tickets. And therefore, the fans will suffer. So this is really an anti-consumer bill, because the acts are trying to protect the fans by making certain tickets not transferable. Or if they have a fan club ticket, say, that they've done for $20 and they want it to be for just their fans, they don't want those fans to go sell it to somebody for $50. So they want to make it non-transferable. It is an exception to the rule. Most tickets are transferable. You can go on your Ticketmaster app and send them to whoever you want at no cost. They don't charge you. You know, we have an issue with bots. Somebody talked about that legislation. I think it's probably impossible to enforce. We had a show go on sale last weekend, for example, at the Roxy at the Battery. We had 4,000 seats go on sale that sold out immediately. 500 of those were captured by bots, by scalpers, which basically took them away from fans. Now, Ticketmaster can go through and glean by looking at the IP addresses and get those back, but it takes a while, but it still costs some fans the ability to get the seats they wanted. So we're under siege from scalpers all the time. This legislation would just help them. And, you know, if you have any questions specifically you want to ask me, glad to answer it.
Recognize Senator Mullis.
Huh? Who, me? I'm a scalper. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Peter, for being here. I want to commend Peter because of it used to be when I could buy a paper ticket when I was a kid, and I know I look a lot older than Peter, but it was Alex Cooley and Peter Conley Presents. You remember those?
I do, absolutely.
I bought a Leonard Skinner ticket for $7. And I know that Peter mentioned 20. I know he's just kidding on that one, but
those are the good old days.
Yeah. And we dedicated a road after Alex Cooley and Peter in Chairman Kennedy's district.
Yeah, the Atlanta Pop Festival is still the largest public gathering on record in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, the Allman Brothers and
Jimi Hendrix last live performance, the Allman Brothers was a.
But I appreciate what you do, and of course, Roxy is a. I do. The Roxy is
In a Honda.
is a legendary place, and it's now at the Batteries. And I know the Braves support them, and they work like good partners together. So I just want to commend Peter and his organization, and I know that they have the best interests of the fan at heart.
Well, we've made a big investment in Georgia.
And also, now tell about the taxes, so on a ticket and so forth.
Well, you know, I don't have a specific number, but
yeah.
if you figure the sales tax, like on Music Midtown, say, where we do a $12 million gross on one event. If you look at all the stadium shows this summer, I'll do, which will have $5-6 million grosses. You know, we do events that are comparable to something like the Super Bowl coming, but we don't ask for anything, and we do it all the time. And like I said, Billboard just voted us the 6th biggest concert market in the country, which I was very glad to hear. So it's developed, but a lot of it's because of the investment we've made here.
Senator Lucas, did you have a question for us? Something about scalping?
No, I just referred to the conversation.
Okay.
I do shows too. I promote on just local.
You're not big time like Peter.
The thing about, I had an online, I was doing tickets online. Next thing I know, folks Photoshop and we're coming through the gate showing the ticket. My problem is, if you do online sales, send me some scanners with it so I can scan the ticket. In other words, I can tell whether that number is in.
Contrary to what somebody said earlier, there's a lot of fraud. If you don't buy a ticket from the licensed ticket seller for that building, whether it's Ticketmaster or Axis or Pacquion, like at the Fox, If you go out to the secondary market, you'll find we turn away fraudulent tickets every night, and we don't have any obligation to you. You didn't buy them from us. You won't get a fraudulent ticket from Ticketmaster or the other ticketing services. But people come up to me all the time, hey, I got this online and it's no good. And then they're like upset. They want you to get their money back. And it's like some guy in Korea's probably got it, you know? So there's a lot of fraud involved in the secondary market.
Senator Gooch, you're recognized for a question.
Yeah, and I think you may have mentioned this, but I'm not clear on it. Some tickets are transferable and some aren't.
Right.
So if, I know there's a lot of venues that are private, and I think you indicated you own 5 or 6, but the ones that aren't private, like the World Congress Center, Mercedes-Benz, State Farm, Centennial Park, all these other event facilities around Georgia, if they wish to have their tickets transferable, would you be bound to that? Is that part of your negotiation, or?
It doesn't work that way. It would be, they wouldn't have that right. It's the right of whoever is producing the event or the artist. That's their decision on the ticket,
But if
not the
that was a
buildings.
Condition of the lease. I'm assuming if George Strait comes to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, his agent has to sign a lease for the building, correct?
The promoter would sign a rental
So
agreement.
someone has to agree to the terms and conditions of that lease.
Well, if they were, say they were to make that a condition to an artist that they have to be transferable, there's a good chance the artist would refuse to play the building. Artists are extremely self-determined. You don't tell them what to do. They have a lot of options. They can go to a lot of cities. All I ever do is say, sure, and how soon do you want it done?
So I've never, Mr. Chairman, can I ask one follow-up? I've never not been able to buy a ticket, or I don't think I have, to any event that I was trying to go to, whether it would be obviously Ticketmaster, but Stubhub and the others. There were 2 or 3 others mentioned that I recall buying tickets through. What? Your wallet's real deep. Well, no, but I've always been able to buy a resale ticket. So are they doing that illegally, or is it just in those venues?
No,
where
the
they are
majority of
transferable?
tickets, the majority of tickets you can transfer. This is set at that small amount that the artist or the producer want to protect and keep from hitting the secondary market because they don't want them inflated. Specifically, like the first 20 rows, a lot of artists want those non-transferable because they're worth so much more. And the artist could have made that money, but they don't want to gouge their fans.
So does Live Nation resell tickets?
You can resell on Live Nation sites, but we don't charge for it. You can transfer or resell your ticket at no charge.
So how do you make money?
Well, we make money off selling the tickets originally. We have a service charge and work with the buildings. And in Live Nation, they charge service charge, but they've made an incredible investment into ticketing, and their marketing arm is tremendous. Look, when I started in this business, you worked with these guys who had paper tickets, and you never knew how many tickets they had. And sometimes they printed 2 manifests and you didn't know about it. And, they came along and gave us a system where it was accountable. We can tell where every ticket goes, and the artist feels comfortable that they know they're getting the money they should. So they really revolutionized the ticket business when they did it, and it's helped everybody out, including the promoters.
Any other questions? All right, thank you for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Senator Brass, do you have any closing comments or response? You can do it from your seat if you do. Looks like
Sure.
that's about where we need to stop.
Yeah, a couple, I'll just kind of answer some of the questions and concerns. Going back to Senator Rhett's questions earlier, and you wanted me to kind of address the letter that I hadn't seen. And now that I've seen it, they didn't have reservations or oppose it. They strongly oppose it. So I've answered that question. But I think there's some things we could do to work with the Braves, the Falcons, the Hawks, or the United to address some of their concerns. Certainly if they want to have a veterans night and want to make sure that the tickets are staying in the hands of veterans, and they used examples of family section or non-alcohol zones. We can certainly address that in the bill. I've already had Ledge Council work on some amendments and a sub, but I didn't want to muddy the waters. I just wanted to present the bill since it was a hearing only. and then come back and address some of these concerns. So that certainly can be taken care of with legislation. I'd be willing to work with Live Nation on if the artist has requests for certain number of tickets that are non-transferable. I'd certainly be willing to work with you guys on that as well. Now, I am reading in the letter here, one of their concerns is about price gouging and pricing out of attendance. And I will show you one little stat. There was an event in California who does not have any laws around this. And it was back on just a few days ago, actually. And again, so everything was vertically integrated there. And it looks like the bottom ticket went for about $375 plus fees. Now, Illinois, who in 2000, I believe they've had this law. In fact, they're way more prohibitive than what I'm trying to do. They've had this in place. They had the exact same event 6 days prior to the one in California. And the bottom ticket for Ticketmaster at that event was $125.50 plus their fees. And Stubhub was $50 plus fees. So I think the point I'm trying to make here is that the competition, it does work and it does help protect at least protect that part of the price gouging. Again, free market can drive down prices. The chairman, you had mentioned Augusta National. I did want to say, I've lived in Augusta for a couple of years, and back when I was a little old golf pro down at Bellmead Country Club in Thompson, Georgia, and Augusta National is a private entity. And I kind of touched on this earlier, it is truly, if you live in Augusta, you understand that the Masters is a local event. They truly, the community, that is how that tournament became famous. It started because the community supported it. And Augusta National in turn continues to support the community that has always supported it. And so that's why we had that carve out, was for events like that started organically like that were private entities and that were community based. We didn't want to get into that. So that kind of addresses that. But really, I mean, I think too, I'll add, we heard that maybe artists won't go to states or venues that do this. Well, New York passed this law in 2010. I'm pretty sure artists aren't skipping out of New York. Again, Illinois has passed this. And way more prohibitive than what we're trying to do. And I'm pretty sure artists are still going to Chicago as well. So
just made me notice I skipped one named Chris Vanderhoof. I think came from Connecticut. Here's Chris. Sorry, I omitted you. If you can try to hold this pretty tight, because we're
be real tight.
Our time.
That discussion earlier about all that beer has got me thirsty. We got to get out of here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for not signing up. My name is Chris Vanderhoof. I'm the president of the Fan Freedom Project. We're a national organization that advocates on behalf of fans of sports and entertainment events around the country. We wholeheartedly support this bill. A couple of points I just wanted to bring up. It is truly a consumer choice bill. Live Nation Entertainment, as we've heard today, is a vertically integrated monopoly for all intent. They are the owner of Ticketmaster, the world's largest primary seller of tickets. They are a major owner and operator of venues around the country. They are a major entertainment representation firm, and they are the second largest reseller of tickets in the world. The idea that they cannot work with the artist and the consumer in states that they go to provide transferable tickets seems like a bit of a misnomer. One of the other things that we heard today was about bots and brokers and quote unquote scalpers. Teams, venues all over the country cut deals with local business people who are brokers so that seats are guaranteed to be bought, mitigating risk. And those brokers in turn then resell them to the community and oftentimes below face value, especially for events like Major League Baseball that has 82 home games a year, NBA basketball, NHL hockey, where folks simply can't go every single day. And then one of the last points that I want to make that I think, and I apologize, I know that the bill sponsor was closing this up, but it had referenced pricing, that, you know, the fans getting access to reasonable priced tickets. Just this afternoon, in getting ready for today's hearing, I was researching Paul McCartney tickets that are on sale now. He's going on another tour across the country. And his best seats that are available, admittedly, this is not in Georgia, this is in New York, but in the first 5 rows are selling between, and this is the primary market, not the secondary, $4,000 and $7,000 a ticket. So I don't think that that's necessarily affordable tickets for fans. You know, and the idea that artists aren't going to go to states that have laws like this is, again, a misnomer. U2, for example, has been to Connecticut since they passed the law, Illinois, Virginia. Somebody had mentioned George Strait plays Virginia, New York, Garth Brooks, New York, Virginia, Illinois. Truth of the matter is that this is a discussion about control. And right now, one company controls the vast majority of the market, the venues, the artists, all of that. This bill simply allows, at the time of purchase, Georgian consumers the option to buy a ticket that they can transfer and use the market competitively to get the best deal that works for them. And again, Mr. Chairman, thank you for letting me come up. I apologize for not signing up. That's my problem.
I'm surprised we got 2 big fan organizations like this. How many fans you got in your
We're over
organization?
100,000. So we've got a quite
So what do
pretty
they
good
pay
follow.
dues or something to?
I wish they all
have-
paid dues, Mr. Chairman. No, that is not true. We have a board of directors that includes actually Mr. Zabo's group, the National Consumers League, and secondary ticket industry is also part of that. We don't shy from that. That is true.
Secondary ticket, is that who we're talking about?
Stubhub,
Live Nation
Vivid,
stuff?
those guys.
Okay. All right, questions? Dr. Rett.
I was just gonna say, don't you, I'm gonna work with the senator from the 28th, try and help perfect the bill as best as possible.
All right.
And don't you feel that don't you feel that perhaps competition, well, people are always going to resell a ticket, but do you want to make sure they resell it in a position where they know they're getting a legitimate ticket and not a fraudulent, thank you, ticket?
For sure. And, you know, in fraud, by and large, as far as it goes with the ticket, is relatively rare. There is fraud in the new digital age that is around how the ticket is purchased. Certainly credit card fraud is a major issue, and not just in the ticket industry. We all know about credit card fraud being a problem online, which is why, you know, we encourage competition in the marketplace with reputable companies. You know, you might have a ticket that you want to resell, and maybe StubHub's fees are too high. Maybe Vivid is better. Maybe Vivid's are too high and you want to go to Stub. Maybe you want to go to another company. Maybe you want to leave it on Ticketmaster and utilize their very robust secondary site that they're reselling tickets on. So yes, the answer to that, of course, is yes. We're not searching for fraudulent tickets, of course not. But we think that the best competition that's available for consumers will drive the market in a better direction.
Consumer confidence and
sure.
All right. Thank you for being here with us today. That appears to be all the questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let me address just a couple things. First of all, our schedule next week, we will be meeting Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m., our regularly scheduled times. Tuesday meetings are a little more limited because of meetings that begin at 4 o'clock. We lose our committee members. We go a little bit longer on Thursdays. I've asked for a meeting time on Wednesday of next week, which is a committee day at 11 a.m. So just if you need to mark your schedules, I will have a calendar out tomorrow telling you what we're going to hear on Tuesday. Senator Brass mentioned a committee sub on here. I've been pretty lenient so far, allowing senators that have introduced bills to bring their subs. Senator Gooch asked me, brought his by yesterday, and I'm gonna probably tighten that up a little bit. And you feel free to work yours and bring it to me. But the reason is we've got to get it analyzed by Senate research, get you a summary. I need to read and review it, decide if we're going to hear it. And then it's only fair to the public that they know what it is we're discussing when we get here. All these bills have been filed, they're online, people have been able to read them. When we switch gears and flip a whole new concept on you before the hearing, I don't think it's fair for you to, you can't answer our questions if you don't know what's in it. So I'm going to ask any members that have a bill pending this committee that want to make changes to it, basically admitting you screwed it up the first time, didn't get it right, or didn't have enough support for it. uh, let's perfect it and get it to me quickly because we only have a couple weeks till crossover day. We're going to start moving some things here pretty soon, but enjoyed having y'all here. Great attendance, great questions and comments by members, and everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you back here Tuesday afternoon. We're adjourned.